New England is known for its beautiful countryside, quaint towns, abundant wildlife, and of course, there's always plenty of lobster. But in the middle of Maine, every summer, a coveted trophy is sought after by some of the best race car drivers in the nation, the Oxford 250.
The list of winners for the Oxford 250 reads like a who's who list of super late model racing. And today in New England, people are lining up to get ready to watch one of the greatest battles in short track racing. The teams are preparing to do battle for 250 laps, and that man, Cassius Clark, 35 years old, will lead the field to the green flag. Welcome to the 44th annual Oxford 250 from Oxford Plains Speedway in Maine. And this field here today is unlike any other. I'm Bob Dillner. Alongside of me in the booth is Alan Dietz. Hannah Newhouse will man pit road for us. And this racetrack and this day, just picture perfect, Alan.
Oh, you couldn't ask for a better day here in Maine. Ton of race cars, over 60 showed up this weekend to race at this great circular racetrack here in Maine.
Definitely a circular racetrack. You barely go straight on this racetrack, which is right in central Maine. A beautiful day today, and of course, this has significant ramifications for the past National Series Championship. Ben Rowe leads Dave Farrington Jr. by 52 markers coming into this one, but of course, it's a Pass North event as well.
Well, a tight battle in Pass North and just a couple of races left in the national standings.
Let's go down to Hannah Newhouse for more before we go green.
Welcome to Oxford Plains Speedway, nestled in the center of Maine and home to the biggest one-day super late model show in the country. Tonight, one driver will go home $25,000 richer and be crowned the 44th annual Oxford 250 winner. A strong field of competitors here at Oxford Plains, among them two favorites, Glenn Luce and Travis Benjamin. Travis, who's a two-time past champion of this race, is starting near the front of the field. Glenn Luce also on a roll as a past champion, as he recently won a Pass North race at Lee USA Speedway.
65 super late models strong, and this was part of the drama earlier today, the draw for where you lined up in your qualifying heat races.
And that's six-time champion Johnny Clark that we just saw drawing there. And I think, Bob, that's what makes this race so unique, is everything's packed into one day.
Plenty of excitement in 6 heat races today. Cassius Clark won heat race number 1. Eddie McDonald, the two-time 250 winner, disqualified after his heat race win because of a ride height violation. And take a look at this, the battle in the last chance race. The 09 of Jeremy Davis got it done.
He got in Dennis Spencer Jr. in that car number 46. He's not into 250. It was that close.
Wayne Hellowell Jr., last year's 250 winner, one of 6 heat race winners today. Hannah has now caught up with Cassius Clark.
Here on the pole at the Oxford 250, but you have yet to win your first 250. Could tonight be the night?
I hope so. That's why we're here. We got a good car. It's been decent, all through the couple days of testing here, and had a good heat. So got a good starting spot, and see if we can click some laps off here and make some adjustments on the pit stop and be there at the end.
250 laps is a long race, especially to short track. Any strategy you guys have in play?
Oh yeah, we got a couple different ideas. It depends, when the cautions lie and all that. There's a bunch of different factors, but we got a good team and good plan, and hopefully it'll work out.
Cassius Clark has been to victory lane in the past circuit 19 times, but never in the 250. Sarah Cornett Ching, a top 10 runner in the ARCA Racing Series a couple of years ago, well, she's carrying one of our onboard cameras. Look at the list of other winners here. An incredible list, indeed.
Sunoco and New England Racing Fuel have been fueling victories in the Pro All-Star Series. Go to neracingfuel.com to locate Sunoco Race Fuel near you or become a dealer.
Welcome back to Oxford Plains Speedway, the 44th annual Oxford 250. You see the super late models on the racetrack getting ready to go green here at this racetrack. More than 40 strong in this race. For some of those drivers we should watch out for today, let's go back to Hannah Newhouse.
There's there's a lot of drivers who have a chance to win this race. One of those is 2016 Past North champion DJ Shaw. He's starting a little bit farther back, but he's had a strong car all weekend, and I'm sure he'll be one that'll be up at the front. Another one, 3-time Oxford 250 winner, Mike Rowe. He took the provisional, is starting at the back, but he's done this before, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's up front by the end of the night.
Well, Hannah mentioned DJ Shaw. Well, he actually won a Past North race a couple months ago here at Oxford. And the big thing in this race analysis, I believe, Alan, is the 10-tire rule.
Yeah, these drivers will have the opportunity throughout the race at whatever point they want to come in and change up to 6 tires. You get the 10-tire rule from the 4 that you start with, and then the 6 that you can put on if you so choose.
Great shot there from the Race 101 onboard camera with Sarah Cornett-Chain. And here is the starting lineup for the Oxford 250. Cassius Clark and Wayne Hellowell Jr. on the front row.
But some surprises there on the second row with Scott McDaniel and Scott Robbins. You see Travis Benjamin, Glenn Luce, that's a strong row 7.
The 7s are wild, certainly, in Past North competition this year. Joey Dwyerin finished on the podium a few years back here in the Oxford 250. And then way back in the 30th spot, Joey Pohl is what we like to call him. Back in 30th, that's a long way to go to get to the front.
But we've seen it before. Mike Rowe, I think, came from, 37th a few years ago. If he does it today, he's going to have to do a little bit better than that because he's starting 42nd.
Mike Rowe, the 3-time winner of the Oxford 250. Look at that. That's a sight to be seen. We are ready to go. Green flag racing here at Oxford Plains Speedway with the 44th running of the Oxford 250. That is a sweet sound of 600 horsepower roaring to life around this racetrack. Cassius Clark, the leader over Wayne Hellowell Jr. in that orange number 27.
Yeah, and you know, last year, Wayne Hellowell Jr., he really found the hookup in that car number 27 in the July race here, the past race at Oxford last July, and it seems like that translated over. And, he's picking up right where he was last year. Hasn't really raced a lot this year, though, Bob.
Yeah, Wayne Hellowell Jr., certainly one of those favorites coming into this one. We go a little bit further back in the field. The battle for 6, Cole Butcher in that 53 car. And he is a guy that has taken the super late model world by storm this year.
He's very impressive, a young driver out of Nova Scotia. I got to see him race before this weekend in the Easter Bunny 150 at Hickory. He drove for Donnie Wilson there. This is his family-owned car that he races up in the Canadian Maritimes. And I think we're going to see a lot of him. He impressed me last year at the Snowball, raced in the Snowflake for Donnie Wilson and did a great job.
Justin Drake in the 09 machine in that battle there, and Travis Stearns right behind that in the 16. Mike Hopkins in the bright orange machine. He is a guy that has won on the Past North circuit and could be a threat for today's victory.
And he seems like Mike Hopkins in that car number 15, that he's really good on these smaller, flat racetracks, which there tend to be a lot of in New England, but it plays to his strengths. And see him there with his hand out the window, and I think we know why.
We got trouble. Lap number 8, a caution. They go off the racetrack. No walls in the corners here at all. We have several cars off the racetrack.
Probably a good thing there's no walls.
Yes, absolutely. A lot less damage. In fact, Eddie McDonald, I just saw him there. There's Kyle D'Souza, 24 years old in the number 10 machine, and that damage to the right front of Eddie McDonald's car.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happened there. Not going the way Eddie McDonald thought it would, at least at the start of the day, when he thought he had won heat race number 2 before he had that penalty. And here we'll get a look at it.
Take a look from this static shot, and there you see a yellow car go around in the corner there. I believe that was Trevor Sanborn in the 44.
Ben Rowe, actually.
It was Ben Rowe. They are team cars for Richard Moody Racing, and wow, look at that. Eddie McDonald goes airborne off the racetrack. And now pit road already busy. You see Eddie Mack in the 17 heading down there. Derek Griffith in the 12 as well. Let's head down to the pit area with Hannah Newhouse.
Derek Griffith was one of the hopefuls for tonight's race. He's currently getting a new left rear tire as he rode around the track the last couple laps on the rim of that left rear. The team is also assessing some body work, hoping that it won't interfere with that tire later on in the race.
You can see they're actually putting that Barabond on the right front fender. Cassius Clark, the leader so far, but we got plenty to go here in Oxford, Maine. Don't go away. About 45 minutes to the east of Oxford Plains Speedway, a beautiful coastline of Maine. The Portland Headlight, one of the many lighthouses that you could see along that coastline on the Atlantic Ocean. Just some beautiful weather this week, and people have been enjoying inland, but also near the ocean as well.
Bob, I think these race cars today go a little bit faster than those boats were, right?
Just a little bit than that sailboat that we just saw. We're getting ready to go back to green flag racing here. Cassius Clark still the man up front. Wayne Hellowell Jr. on the outside of the front row. In trouble for Wayne Hellowell Jr. Might have missed a shift on that start there. So he's going to lose a bunch of spots.
I think he definitely missed a shift because it looks like the car's back up to speed now, but that is exactly not what you want. I mean, you see he's back here just in front of this battle for 10th. He was on the outside of row 1 a lap ago.
Hey, this is what I love about Oxford Plains Speedway. It's not a single groove track. It's not a 2-groove track. It's 3 and sometimes 4 grooves, and that just shows you how racy this place truly is. Mike Hopkins trying to make his way through the field. Let's go back to Hannah Newhouse. Hannah?
Reed Lanford practiced here Friday night, turned around and went to Beech Ridge Saturday night, where he's currently contending for the points championship. Lanford walked away with the win that night, the points lead, and is making his way through the field to capture the Oxford 250 win this evening.
Hey, Reed Lanford is very impressive. 2 years ago, he finished second in this race. But Hannah talked about that tight points race in the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series at Beech Ridge Motor Speedway in Scarborough, Maine. Right now, he's having a phenomenal year. 4 wins to his credit so far this year, battling for the championship. He did have 2 cars, so he's been able to go back and forth between the 2 racetracks so far this weekend.
And you know, he started the season off really strong. Won the second and third Pass North races of the season at Oxford and at Beech Ridge. But how about Cassius Clark right now? And he's got this Fury chassis out in the wind right now, leading down the back straightaway. And Scott McDaniel, what a great run for him here in the early going at Oxford 250.
Look at this battle here, Alan, a little bit further back in the field. There's the 73 car, Joey Dwyron. Joey, just a young kid out of Maine. Of course, won the past national championship a couple years ago, and now we're back to 3 wide racing.
Look at DJ Shaw in that car number 60, the defending Pass North Super Late Model champion, working his way up through the middle of Brian Krusek and the 7G of Curtis Gary down there on the bottom. And, you know, DJ Shaw, he's another one of those big names that has yet to win the Oxford 250. Hopes it could be this year, but he's got a little ways to go for sure.
And Curtis Gary, one of those underdogs here in the race today. But we mentioned Reed Lanford. Curtis Gary is actually battling with him at Beech Ridge Motor Speedway for the track championship there. And the ironic part about Gary is this 7 car today is the same 7 car that he ran with one night ago at Beech Ridge just down the road.
But how cool is that? I mean, that is the grassroots of racing. That's what you used to see 20, 30, 40 years ago, and to be able to still do those types of things today, I just think it's so cool, and it adds to some of the mystique of this Oxford 250. Another great battle here. You know, you mentioned it earlier, Bob. We're going to see it all day, this 3-wide racing. We might even get bored with it. I mean, it's just amazing on a racetrack this size that these guys are able to race like this.
Travis Benjamin is a 2-time winner of the Oxford 250. He's in that red number 7 car. Won it back in 2013 and 2014. And honestly, one of the hottest drivers on the circuit coming into this race. And everybody pinpointed him in particular as the favorite to win this one.
Yeah, and you know, the thing with Travis Benjamin, he came really close last year. You know, he had a great battle with Wayne Hellowell Jr. late in the race. Got caught up behind a lap car, ended up finishing second. But it seems like in the years that Travis Benjamin has been able to win this race and been competitive in this race as he is today, battling Travis Stearns here for 4th, it seems like they figure something out in August, July and August, and that's when you know, hey, these guys up at the 250 could be in trouble because Travis Benjamin and that team have got it kind of figured out right.
And about a month ago, Travis Benjamin actually went to Victory Lane here at Oxford Plains Speedway, so we expect him to continually pick off cars and come through the field. D'Souza in the 10 goes around to bring out caution number 2 of the day.
Yeah, just 20 laps in, and Kyle D'Souza, the transplanted New Englander, he lives down in South Carolina now, and has had some good runs in regular super late model shows here at Oxford in recent weeks, but just struggling today. Is a really big deal, though, for this team to make it into the race. But here in the early going, at least, having some problems, especially in that end of the speedway.
Let's take a look at what happened to the 10 car down in turn number 4. And there you can see it a little bit further back in the field. Don't know if there was contact back there, but he definitely went around in a precarious position.
I'm willing to bet there was some contact there. Let's see here on board with Sarah Cornett-Ching, and you see just in front of her, it looked like somebody might have gotten that left rear and just sent him around.
Good job by Sarah. Now down to Hannah.
It wasn't long ago that Jay Fogelman ran third here at the Oxford 250. He's recently taken a back seat to help his son, Tate Fogelman's super late model endeavors. Right now, Fogelman's been having issues with the carburetor and the ignition. The team says they've been battling that the entire race.
And you can see them working on the carburetor right there, maybe fooling around with the jetting or whatever on that machine. So Jay Fogelman, who came 900 miles to battle here from North Carolina to Oxford, Maine, in the pits early in this one. Still a long way to go. Getting ready to get kick started once again with the Oxford 250 on MAV TV. Cassius Clark is your leader in that white 13. And how about McDaniel on the outside in the red 14? Looking pretty good early in this race is the former PASS Modified winner.
Yeah, and you know, for those of you who might not be familiar with the PASS Modified, these are not like tour-type modifieds that you see guys like Doug Coby and Ryan Preece racing. These are more of an IMCA-style modified with a narrow tire. As we see, he got a little bit of a tap back there from Sean Martin, but they race a lot here at Oxford Plains and at Beach Ridge and racetracks in Maine. So Scott McDaniel, maybe not a familiar name to super late model racers, but having that PASS Modified experience is helping a lot for him right now here in the early going.
Well, here comes Travis Stearns battling his way to the front of the field. Travis, a good buddy with Austin Theriault, of course, the ARCA Racing Series point leader at this stage of the season. And right now, Travis Stearns is having a very good run. He moves up to that third spot. By the way, Sean Martin in the red number 94, he's currently in second.
Look at Travis Benjamin, though, continuing to work that outside groove, really swings it wide out of the corners here, keeps that momentum up whenever he goes down into turns 3 and 4. And you know, Bob, he seems really content right now running that outside groove.
And honestly, I think he's saving his tires just a little bit as well. Travis Benjamin knows this racetrack, knows how to win here. He's a former winner of the 250. For more, let's go back to Hannah.
Travis Benjamin has won this race 2 times before. He's currently battling for the 3rd position. When I talked to him, he said that it was a surprise the first time he won it, let alone the 2nd, but he is looking for that 3rd. Right now, him and his crew said they're content with the car and they're just riding.
And honestly, in talking to Travis this weekend, I believe he's been a little bit on edge. He wants that 3rd crown in the Oxford 250, and he really wants to do it for this particular team. And because of that, he's been so concerned about getting everything perfect this weekend.
Well, Pettit Motorsports, and when he won the 250, he was driving for his family-owned team, and I think it surprised a lot of people when he left the family team to really merge. I mean, I think they more or less merged resources, and it's really paid dividends, and not only going for his 3rd Oxford 250 here today, but got a good chance this year to maybe win his 2nd PASS North Super Late Model Championship.
And Travis Benjamin now up to 3rd. Travis Stearns following him. But look at Scott McDaniel. He lost a couple spots, so about 5 laps ago, but that shows you that you can rebound on a track like this. Now he has followed Travis Benjamin and learned what he did. Now he's up on the 2nd group.
And it seems like to me, Bob, if you can get your car, it doesn't really seem to matter if you get it hooked up on the bottom or on the low side. And as you said earlier, sometimes you might be better off getting it hooked up on that outside tire, because look how a guy like Travis Stearns in that 16 is really driving that car hard down on the bottom.
And Scott McDaniel knows what he's doing. He's on that outside groove. He knows he's not punishing the right front tire, but he's pinning the 16 and making Travis Stearns run just a little bit harder to burn up his stuff. By the way, right behind that, here comes Reed Lampford in the 59. And we found this out a couple years ago, and I think this is really interesting. Reed Lampford, a one-handed driver, drives with his left hand only.
Did he know that?
No, he didn't. we put an onboard camera in his car, and he couldn't believe it. Speaking of an onboard camera, here's Sarah Cornett-Ching with the Race 101 camera, and you'll be able to see her and how she works that wheel getting around this circular racetrack.
You know, the other thing that I noticed from this onboard is is how little you're on the throttle here at this racetrack. You never really straighten the car out. You hear it right here. And she's out. I mean, that's a couple of seconds, and that's all.
And basically, a lot of these guys, you see Cassius Clark putting Sarah Cornett Ching a lap down right now. That's the leader of the race. But the guys are telling me here at Oxford, you almost have to detune the carburetor or put like an egg underneath the throttle pedal so that you don't burn up those tires by spinning them and getting on the throttle too quick, too hard coming off the corner.
I spoke to Kelly Moore before the race, a many-time veteran of the Oxford 250. He's raced at Daytona, he's raced at Talladega, Dover, Loudon, you name it, he's raced there, and he's raced in this 250 many times. He failed to qualify, and he told me even as many times as he's raced here that Oxford and Beech Ridge are the two hardest racetracks to set up.
And you talk about Kelly Moore being an old-timer. He finished second to Dick McCabe in this race back in 1988, 13 starts. But as you said, he didn't qualify for this one.
Right now we're seeing these leaders starting to work into some lap traffic. We saw Cassius Clark as he put Sarah Cornett Ching a lap down. And this is going to get really interesting, Bob, as we move forward.
Well, as we move forward into this race, everybody is going to want some tires. We'll be right back on MAV TV. The state of Maine is also known as vacation land, especially in the summer months. And how about this? The Poland Spring Resort, just a couple miles down the road from Oxford Plains Speedway. Beautiful grounds. We saw the coastline earlier. Well, this is the mountainous region of the state of Maine, and it's absolutely spectacular around this area. Back to green flag racing action. Cassius Clark, still on the point in that 13, has been unstoppable so far.
Putting some good cars a lap down right now, Bob. He put the 45 of Cody Connor out of North Carolina a lap down. Now he's got the 97 of John Fleming out in front of him, one of the best out of Nova Scotia. These are really good race cars right now, and maybe a surprising long green run here in the early going that we didn't expect. Sometimes
a little calm before the storm. Right here, from about the quarter of the way through the race, maybe to the middle. Here's a battle on the racetrack, the 27 of Wayne Hellowell Jr., Travis Stearns in the 16. And we started talking about Hellowell earlier today. He actually last year was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And because of that, after he won the Oxford 250, he went away from racing for a while and didn't return until July of this year and had a top 5 run in his comeback at Star Speedway in Epping, New Hampshire.
And I think, he was experiencing some symptoms, and, as you said, he got diagnosed, so they had to figure out a way to maybe tackle racing in a different way to go along with what he's dealing with right now. And it seems to be paying off. As you said, he ran well here in July, and he's having a great run today, having to come back. Had those problems on that restart, but he's made his way back up to 6th now. And, we talked about Cassius Clark putting Derek Griffith a lap down right now, and Derek really been one of the better cars in Pass North this year.
Yeah, Derek Griffith actually won a race on the Pass North circuit this year. Here's a battle for second. Scott McDaniel in the 14, Travis Benjamin in the 7, starting to heat up.
Did I hear a little tinge of Marco there?
Just a little bit.
Just a little.
Marco Thomas, he usually says Travis Benjamin. He's the PA announcer for the Pass North Series, and Benjamin certainly coming through the field. Always love listening to Marco.
Need to get a guy like that down south. It's just a little, little better. And I think that's what we need down south.
I think the guy down south with the twang does just fine. I do indeed. But good battles. Good battles right there. The 59, I'm keeping my eye on Reed Lanford. I was just so impressed 2 years ago at this race when he finished in that runner-up spot. And I believe that he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. And speaking of a force to be reckoned with, usually Johnny Clark is. Had a really good run here just a few weeks ago. And look at that, Cole Butcher off the track, the 20-year-old from Canada, off of turn number 4, and he will bring out the caution flag once again.
And the 48 car, Bobby Timmons, he's out in the kitty litter. Looks like outside of turn 3. And you got to wonder, maybe a little bit of contact there. Definitely some problem.
You got to wonder, too, if guys are going to start their pit sequence right now, too, and start to take on fresh rubber. Remember, you have 6 tires in the pit area. Will you take 4 during this race? Will you take all 6?
Well, I think some of these guys definitely at the back of the pack. Some of those cars, as we see, that lost a lap here, Ben Lynch, looks like Calvin Rose, Cody Connor. I don't think you have any choice right now. You got to go ahead and take those 4 tires. Hope you can get back on the lead lap, and then maybe it'll cycle back around to where you could get 2 tires late in the race.
By the way, how about the 8 of Rose? Last year's street stock champion here at Oxford Plains Speedway actually made the Oxford 250. That was quite the feat. There's the guy that won 2 years ago here in the 250, Glenn Luce.
And I think a little surprising that Glenn's not been stronger. We haven't seen the strength out of him that we've seen all year in the north, especially here at Oxford, and looked like they made some sort of a wedge adjustment back there in the back, maybe put a spring rubber in the right rear there on the 7L car to try and get him straightened out a little bit, because we're used to seeing him race a little closer to the front.
Here is Calvin Rose Jr. We talked about him being the street stock champion here last year, and now in one of the high-powered super late models. He is just tickled to make the show. He said that was a victory in itself.
And we saw a lot of guys after the heat races today that felt that way, that for those guys, the victory was just making the race itself. This is a bonus, and you never know how things may shake out in the end.
Hey, 65 cars. What a great field. And because of that, 21 cars did not make the show. We'll be right back. 61 laps into this 250-lap race at Oxford Plains Speedway today on MAV TV. Cassius Clark is your leader in the white 13. John Fleming alongside is actually a lap down. Brackett in the 60 just behind that is locked into the second spot.
Yeah, and Tim Brackett in that car number 60. He knows the things are true about Oxford Plains Speedway.
He's won championships here many times over in the weekly racing that they have each and every weekend here at Oxford.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that we forget about is that they do run super late models weekly here at Oxford Plains Speedway. So, yeah, you got a lot of pass cars.
Oh, no.
Whoa, big problem here.
Derek Ramstrom in the number 35. I see the 73 of Joey Dwyer and the 16 of Travis Stearns was in the top 5 earlier today. Several cars tangled down in between 1 and 2.
Alan Tardif in that car number 9, one of the Oxford regulars. And a lot of damage on these cars, Bob, early in the going. But one thing about it is here, you can get by with some superficial damage here at Oxford.
Yeah, you can, because this is a 3/8 of a mile facility, and it's not a fast track. Like you mentioned, you're always turning. So you can lose a fender, but you can't have chassis damage or suspension damage. And I believe that Joey Dwyer in the 73 has a bunch of that on his right side.
Yeah, and it looks like Travis Stearns, he's been up in the top 5 this entire race with that car number 16. You see him pulling into the infield right now, and I don't think he's even going to try to work on it, does it look like.
Now, Stearns looks like he is done for the day. I'm sure pretty ticked off inside that race car right now. I don't know what happened down there, but certainly a lot of chaos down in 1 and 2. So we went for a long green flag run, and now a lot happening with yellow flags. Let's take a look, and it looks like that 16 of Travis Stearns had some help from behind, and that's what caused the melee down there in between the corners.
And it looked like it might have been DJ Shaw. You see DJ going backwards there in the car number 60. He actually got away from the melee that ensued back behind him as Travis Stearns out of the car, and Bob, he's not happy.
Definitely not happy down there, and I see Hannah's down there as well. Let's go down to Hannah Newhouse. Hannah?
Early on in the race, not even a quarter of the way through, big wreck there. Tell me what happened.
DJ Shaw being DJ Shaw. That's the second 250 he's taken us out. He cost me a 250 in 2012. It cost me 25 grand, so he will get his. He's just a meathead. He's always the same way. Quarter way through, running 5th, 6th. Too far to go to be dumping people like that.
An upset Travis Stearns will not finish the Oxford 250 tonight.
Upset is an understatement. A little
Apparently,
history there between those two.
Yeah, apparently Travis Stearns and Jimmy Spencer, don't forget.
Jimmy Spencer, always known for his rough and tumble attitude. Joey Dwyer in one of 5 cars in this wreck down in 1 and 2 to bring out this caution. And I'm looking at that car, Alan, and I see the front fender, the rear quarter panel, the door messed up a little bit, and it looks like maybe that wheel on the right rear is bent a little bit, but he may be able to continue.
Yeah, I didn't know exactly where you were going with that, Bob, but it looks like there's a lot going on with that car, and it looks like there's a lot going on with Derek Ramstrom's car. But one of the benefits that we see in past racing, whether it be in Maine or whether it be in North Carolina, caution laps do not count. these guys aren't out of this thing. If they can finagle and bend things and massage them and get them back the right way, we've seen cars that actually look a lot worse than this run well at times.
A lot of work going on a two-time champion of this race, Ben Rowe. That team for the Moody boys down up underneath the right rear and underneath the rear end of that car. So I don't know if there's some suspension problems or maybe a rear end issue with the number 4.
Well, another benefit with these caution laps not counting is you see DJ Shaw right now in the pits working on the right front of that car, number 60, is when you have an extended caution like this, you can really take the opportunity to make wholesale changes, even if your car isn't damaged.
DJ Shaw, of course, the son of Dal Shaw, a former NASCAR Busch Series North champion. The old, it's called K&N now, K&N Pro Series East, but Dal Shaw and now DJ Shaw keeping that lineage alive in racing. Oh, everybody's just sweating and ready to go racing once again. We'll do that in a minute. So many small New England fishing villages along the coastline here, and it's all about seafood and capturing one thing. They call it lobster up here in New England, and that makes me hungry right there.
We call them crawfish back home.
Oh boy, you are from North Carolina, buddy.
No, South Carolina, come on.
Oh man, it's the Carolinas. It's the same thing. You can tell by your drawl, that's all. But take a look at the seafood, and they serve up some good seafood here in New England. Almost want to take a break and go get some right now.
Yeah, fry them up, get a little ketchup, good to go.
But we can't because we got plenty of racing still to go. Cassius Clark in the 13, still your leader, but now being threatened by the two-time winner of this race in the 7, Travis Benjamin.
Well, the benefit, I think, Bob, for those guys that were back behind Cassius Clark is after that caution, now you've sorted some of that lap traffic out. They've either pitted, they got their laps back, and now we're going to see what Cassius Clark's got. Or maybe the better thing to say is we're going to see what the rest of these guys have got to go up against Cassius Clark.
Yeah, that restart on lap 87, so we're inching towards the century mark here in this 250-lap race, a little bit back further in the field. That 17 of Eddie McDonald, remember, went off the racetrack and up on 2 wheels in turn 4 earlier, now battling his way back through. But back to the lead, the first challenge of the day for Cassius Clark.
Yeah, Travis Benjamin right now showing the nose of that red Chevrolet to Cassius Clark a couple of times during this last stint of green flag racing here. And, you know, the other thing I think we'll be watching right here, Bob, besides this great battle for the lead, you have some cars out there now that have made pit stops. They've made adjustments. They've taken tires. You're going to see them trying to work their way back up to the front and maybe challenge these guys here a little bit later on.
Cassius Clark in the front of the field. You mentioned those pit stops. Let's get caught up with what's going on. Hannah?
A lot of teams have already taken tires. Wayne Hellowell's crew chief Bruce Earnhardt said that they're on the monkey see, monkey do strategy. A lot of the front-running teams have yet to take tires, so they'll wait until the other cars in front of them come and take tires.
Monkey see, monkey do can sometimes reach out and bite you, though, because sometimes you don't want to do what the other competition is doing to try to get out in front of them.
I think when you have your notebook for this Oxford 250 and you have your plan going into the race, you need to do it with a pencil, because I think a lot of things change based on the circumstances around you. You know, one thing we haven't spoken about, Bob, but we're in that transition right now from day to night. Everything they've done so far, heat races, here the early parts of the Oxford 250 have been during the day. That sun's starting to set, the front straightaway's getting in shade now, and this racetrack's in a change.
And one guy we haven't spoken about is Garrett Hall. He's challenging, but we got some problems up in turn number 1. And look at that, another caution coming out here in the 250. Lonnie Somerville has had a horrific weekend. Had trouble on the first day of practice. Bon Suss, actually, the veteran crew chief for Kyle Busch, is his crew chief for Lonnie Somerville. But look at Ben Rowe, the damage. That's going to be a DNF today for Ben Rowe.
Talk about your day going from bad to worst. 4-time past national champion, 4-time past North champion, Ben Rowe. And I don't think this is something they're going to be able to buff out. We've seen them make some fixed as before, but that's pretty major damage.
And let's see what happened down there. You saw it started with a pair of white cars, and then everybody just checked up, and then Somerville went off the racetrack, and then Ben got hit by somebody down there. Wasn't exactly sure of who hit him. Actually, Somerville went airborne off the racetrack, and it looked like Cole Butcher is the one that actually nailed the yellow machine of Ben Rowe.
Exactly right. He hit him right at the end of that front straightaway where you're really going your hardest into the corner, and Ben Rowe's sitting there, nose facing you, nowhere to go, and you see the result now.
50 wins in the past circuits for Ben Rowe. Definitely will not be getting 51 here today. He's down on pit road, and we go down to Hannah.
Ben Rowe was looking to tie his father Mike Rowe for 3 Oxford 250 wins. He just sustained heavy damage in that wreck, and the crew is all over the nose of that car, ripping it pieces to try and get him back on track. But it's not looking good down here.
Yeah, definitely not looking good at all. You can see that nose just pushed over to the right, and most of that is body damage, but I'm sure a bunch of bent front suspension on that machine. There's Scott McDaniel on pit road as well for maybe one of his routine stops that we expected during this race.
I think you're exactly right, Bob, and I think this is a little bit different strategy than we're seeing from some of those other guys at the front to maybe get him off sequence to see if he can get an opportunity a little bit later in the race. Lonnie Somerville also in the pits. Going back to Ben Rowe, don't forget, this is a points race for past National and past North points. Glenn Luce, he's racing for the North Championship. You have a bad run here today with 44 cars in the field, you're going to lose a ton of points.
Glenn Luce has already won 2 times on the past North Circuit this year, hoping to make his way back through the field. And how about that? Here comes Ben Rowe. Looks like a modified coming back out onto the racetrack. Just past 100 laps in this 250-lap race today at Oxford Plains Speedway. Still out in front of the field is Cassius Clark. He has dominated early in this race. Travis Benjamin on the outside for this restart on lap 102.
And Bob, we saw during that last green flag stint, Travis Benjamin challenging Cassius Clark just a little bit. We didn't really get a good chance to see what he had for him, but right now maybe Travis Benjamin needs to worry here with Garrett Hall.
Now look at it, Garrett Hall. Out of nowhere he comes, and Garrett Hall won the race last night in the Granite State Pro Stocks, the prelim to the Oxford 250. And Hall has been really turning things around and been winning in the past North Series the past couple of years.
Yeah, he's doing a really nice job. You see, he finished 7th in this race last year. Got a ton of experience at Beech Ridge, but has been venturing out some more. Ran at Thompson, had success down there, and doing a pretty good job right now. Back on the rear deck lid of Cassius Clark here, challenging for the lead here near the halfway point.
Garrett Hall actually went to New Smyrna Speedway in Florida earlier this year during Florida Speed Weeks and competed down there 8 out of 9 nights, and he said it was like running a whole season down there. He loves the past North Series, and he's so good at certain styles of racetracks, and right now he's one of the hard chargers in this race, and you got to wonder, do you want to charge hard right now, or do you still want to be patient and protect those tires?
Not being a driver or a crew chief, I just have to think when you look at it from a strategy standpoint, is we got a problem here, Bob.
Oh, Justin Drake in the 09 goes off the racetrack. That will bring out the caution once again here in the Oxford 250.
I bet it gave that camera guy a little bit of a shock there.
I bet you it did indeed. Great shots by all of our team here at MAV TV for the Oxford 250. First time for this event on MAV TV, and a lot of the drivers very excited about the television coverage.
Well, I think the coverage is great for everybody involved in PASS and New England and here at Oxford Plains Speedway as Justin Drake gets his car rolling again, and hopefully we'll get to see what sent him out there, because he's a long way off the racetrack, but he's got it rolling again now.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of front end damage to that 09 machine. You can see him moving that wheel back and forth to try to figure out if he has anything bent on the front end suspension on that car. Let's take a look at what happened here.
It's hard to tell, but you see, I mean, that's almost at the entrance to turn 3. And sent him for a ride, that's for sure. But again, not having walls here at Oxford prevented that car from really getting some serious damage.
Cassius Clark is your leader. Here's more about the 13 with Hannah.
Cassius Clark has been nothing but dominant the first half of this race. His crew chief, Andrew Hicken, is making the calls for him. Andrew, how's Cassius feeling about his car?
It's good. These short runs are hurting us a little bit, just down on air pressure. 3-4 laps, we get rolling, check out a little bit, get a bit of a gap. So we're just riding around here. We're just gonna try to dictate when we stop and bring everybody else with us.
Now you're halfway through the race. You still have 6 tires in this pit. When are we going to see you guys come down pit road?
I'm gonna try for another 50 anyway.
There you guys have it. Cassius making to look a long run on those tires, and hopefully some new stickers for the end of the race.
He had to think about that a little bit when she asked him that question.
And he might not have been telling the truth.
Well, yes, you never show your cards, right?
Well, you got to figure if he goes 50 more laps, that's going to be a little bit less than 100 laps to go. And you would figure with those new tires, that'll allow him to be able to charge a little bit. But, Bob, you had mentioned that as we get set for this restart, are these guys showing their hand right now? And I think as close as we're getting, at least to that pit stop for these leaders, I think you got to try it a little bit and see what Cassius Clark's got and see if you got anything for him for whenever you do make those pit stops and make those adjustments.
117 circuits into this race now. Now we're getting into the survival mode. You got to figure out your race car. And as I say survival, look at this, 3-wide racing, and I think we have a problem with Johnny Clark. Johnny Clark, the 6-time Pass North champion, going to the back of the field.
Yeah, he's losing a lot of spots. He was the first car 1 lap down a couple of cautions ago, but it looks like he's having a lot of trouble right now just trying to stay out of the way and maybe get a caution to try and figure out what's going on with that car right now.
38 total pass wins for Johnny Clark. By the way, the 45 car, the Tiger Stripe car, Cody Connor from North Carolina made his way up here to Maine to compete in the Oxford 250. Garrett Hall right there, almost on the back bumper of the 13 of Cassius Clark, who won the 2013 Pass North Championship.
Looks like we got a new player in this trio up there. Now it's a quartet. It's Curtis Gary working up to the outside of Travis Benjamin. And what is it about these 7s here in New England?
I told you 7s are wild. Travis Benjamin, Glenn Luce, and now Curtis Gary coming up through the field, and he is looking mighty strong right now, able to move by Benjamin. He looks like he's going to get by Garrett Hall. He's making that outside groove really work, and honestly, he's had one of the quicker cars here all weekend. Remember, we began practice on Friday here, practice yesterday as well, and then today a 1-day show in essence, and Gary has been near the top of the charts every single practice session he has been in. Did not practice here yesterday because he ran at Beechridge Motor Speedway.
And it shows how important that draw is for the heat races. And as much as I hate to say it, kind of scares some of those guys that talk like me away sometimes.
Yes, some of the people pass south in the super late model ranks down in the south. They run time trials, not heat races, and sometimes those heat races can be very scary for some people. Under caution once again, and it's because of Johnny Clark. You could see the right front down on that 54.
When we've seen Johnny Clark make some contact in a couple of these incidents, as things was happening around him, and you just got to wonder if it might have cut that right front tire down as you see it going down here out of turn 4 on the replay.
That was a good shot there, actually, coming right off of turn number 4. You kind of saw the front end of that machine just drop, and now he's going to have to bring his car to the attention of his crew in the hot pit area. And Johnny had a good run here just about a month ago. A lot of people thought he would be a contender here for his first Oxford 250 win. He's been doing this a long time, but has never won the 250.
It's crazy when you look at the guys who haven't won this race, Johnny Clark being one of them, Cassius Clark being another. Looks like we might have one of our leaders making a pit stop here, Bob.
Garrett Hall relinquishes a top 3 spot to come down pit road. And by the way, Johnny Clark and Cassius Clark not related at all, but they have battled for years. And there is Garrett Hall in the 94 on pit road.
Yeah, taking that new Hoosier bias ply rubber on the, at least on the right side. We'll see it doesn't look like they're going to the left side right now. And the great thing, Bob, volunteer crew members. These guys are just like all of us watching this race. They work regular jobs. These are not professional pit crews. They practice, they get into it, they get a chance to show their stuff here in the 250.
The biggest one day in super late model racing right here in Oxford, Maine. Welcome back to Oxford Plains Speedway for the 44th running of the Oxford 250. I'm Bob Dillner. Alongside of me is Alan Dietz. and the sun beginning to set here in Maine, and that will change everything for these drivers as far as the handling characteristics of these cars.
I think the benefit, though, for these guys up front who haven't pitted right now, still, over 120 laps to go right now, is that when they do make their pit stop here in the next 30 or 40 laps, you would imagine, the racetrack, I think, is going to be pretty close to what it will be for the rest of the night.
I'm still impressed with Curtis Gary. Gary, a winner at Beach Ridge Motor Speedway, battling for the track championship that's just down the road from here. Ran the race last night with this very race car and now is competing for the lead as we're now halfway through the Oxford 250.
I still think that's the most amazing thing. You think a lot of these guys, as you said earlier, Bob, were here on Friday, were here on Saturday on practice. And not only was this car not at the racetrack yesterday, but it was actually racing at another racetrack, and then he's been able to turn around and come, granted, to a similar racetrack to his home track at Beach Ridge. And he's challenging for the lead right now here in the Oxford 250.
And Curtis Gary, even though you might not have heard of him, as he takes the lead from Cassius Clark, he's not a spring chicken either, 46 years old. So Curtis has been around a long time, loves this racetrack, has been coming here for a long time just to watch this even from the grandstands.
And this is something that we have not seen all night long, and that's somebody other than Cassius Clark leading this race. And as you said, he did it on the high side. He passed him on the high side, and it looks like to me, at least right now, he's going to try to check out. He's had to not only work his way around Cassius Clark, but he had to work his way up through the field. He's passed a lot of cars tonight.
The 00, Brian Krusek, way out there in the third groove, and got to wonder if maybe the tire is going away on that 00 right there, because he was mighty loose in the corner.
You remember how we were saying how well Curtis Gary was handling on the outside? That's not an example of handling well on the outside, and Brian probably did the right thing. He got down in line here back behind Wayne Helliwell Jr.
Well, I got to give him kudos there, because I think Krusek went to the outside to see if there was any grip out there and how his car would handle, but then he thought better of it after the way it looked, and he went back to the inside.
Yeah, I don't know if Oxford was ever dirt, but if it was, that's how you would get around this racetrack.
Well, here's what's really interesting. You see the front stretch right there for our leader, Curtis Gary. We're on the back stretch right now, but when he brings that number 7 machine back to the front stretch, it's kind of off camber a little bit. When you get right to the middle point, about the start-finish line, it actually dips to the right a little bit. And the guys, how they run this, like Travis Benjamin right there, you can almost propel the car into the corner by putting that car over the off-camber part and launching it into turn number 1.
And what about this young man in the car number 24? What do we know about him? Well,
Mike Rowe, let's just say he's been around a while. Just 67 years old, still getting it done. And how about this? 3-time winner of this race, an 8-time K&N East winner, 9-time ACT winner. He's won 21 times in the Pass North Series, 2 times Pass South. He's a champion of both Pass South and Pass North. He's simply a Maine racing legend.
And that was not a typo that we saw on his graphic a couple of laps ago. He started 42nd, and the last time he won the Oxford 250, he started back in 37th. We're deep into this race now. You folks have seen it at home. There's a lot of ways to pass at this racetrack. There's 3 grooves. You can work the high side, you can work the low side. Right now, we're seeing Curtis Gary working well on the outside, Travis Benjamin the same in that red car number 7. But Mike Rowe, he's got it hooked up on the bottom. And how about Alan Tardiff in that car number 9, a local here at Oxford Plains?
Yeah, Alan Tardiff trying to crack into the top 5 here, and that top 5 is right in front of him. Tardiff running in that 6th spot, and he's battling for the track championship here this year. In fact, he's had multiple wins at this racetrack in the late model cars, so Tardiff having a very good run at this stage of the game.
And I think I did say on Short Track Center that Alan Tardiff might be my long shot here for the 250.
You always love those sleeper picks, but there's so many of them in the field, honestly. We always know that the 7 of Travis Benjamin is going to be good. Glenn Luce, Mike Rowe is going to be a threat for the victory, but then there's those underdog guys, and Alan Tardiff can certainly be one of them. Oh boy, almost 3 wide, a little contact there with Mike Rowe. Welcome to the top 5, Alan Tardiff.
And we have seen it in the history of this race. I would argue that the first winner of the 250, Joey Carafas, was probably not somebody that was a favorite going in. Jeremy Ward, Scott Robbins, we've seen through the years. I would even say Glenn Luce in 2015, as well as he's ran the last couple of years. That was a surprise, and these surprises are something that we've come familiar with here in the 250.
And listen, this is the 44th running of this race. There's only three-time winners of this event. Ralph Nason, the 24 of Mike Rowe, and Dynamite Dave Dion in the Oxford 250.
Yeah, just some of the great names who've raced and won here at Oxford. You can go through and look: Don Biederman, Butch Lindley, Jeff Bodine, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch. I mean, from all over North America really have raced and won here. We're seeing a couple of guys here going at it. Eddie McDonald, a former winner of the 250, but not in a super late model. We've seen a lot of different machinations of cars in the 44 years of this event, and now it's evolved back to a super late model race, and I think it's really finding the best success it's had probably in the last 10 or 15 years now.
Eddie McDonald really fast in that 17 car. There's the 59 of Reed Lamford, 19 years old, and having a good run here, trying to save his stuff, I believe, for the end of this race. He learned a lot, and honestly, when he finished second here 2 years ago, he said he was a little bit frustrated. Even after all the happiness, he was one of those underdogs that year. He was still a little frustrated because he thought he could have done different things in that race to get to victory lane. The sun setting on a beautiful day here in Oxford, Maine. One of the hidden gems in the state of Maine is in central Maine. You see a lot of lakes and mountains. And by the way, I think that's Alan Dietz. That's you there in the hammock, isn't it?
About 15 years ago.
You see plenty of rapids there with some of the rivers and people kayaking on some of the lakes. Just a beautiful time. I'd love to be taking the dog out there for just a trip, a stroll on a kayak in one of these lakes around Maine. So if you come up to the Oxford 250, make it a family vacation because there's plenty to do.
And a lot of people do that. You know, they'll come up and spend the week and enjoy some of those great sights. As right now, Curtis Gary working a lot of lap traffic here, Bob, and you're not seeing double.
No, not seeing double. There are a lot of sevens in this show, and Curtis Gary is actually the leader of this race, the second seven in that shot. Ben Lynch, by the way, lives in North Carolina. He's an engineer for Brad Keselowski Racing, with Chase Briscoe being threatened to go a lap down.
Right now, a good battle here, Bob, between Eddie McDonald and Joey Polwarczyk, because I'm not going to say Joey Pole. I could actually pronounce it.
I'm pretty impressed. Even with your southern drawl, you were able to say Joey Polwarczyk.
Yeah.
So Eddie McDonald there. Two veterans, Joey Pole, a former winner of the Oxford 250.
And there you see Curtis Gary again, and this is the problem that you get into with these multiple grooves here at Oxford is from top to bottom, you've got three grooves, and a lot of times you're going to come up on 2-3 cars wide as you're working this lap traffic. And right now, Curtis Gary, as good as this car is working right now, he's surrounded by lap cars. He's not got any of the lead lap cars close to him. That spotter, Jason Thompson, got to be working him and saying, hey, just take your time, you're good, just, let these guys work it out.
I want to mention Dave Farrington Jr. Right there up in the title chase for the past National Series. He's in that orange number 23, a lap down.
What would it mean for Curtis Gary to win this race, though? You see his best finish here in the Oxford 250, 10th in 2006. This is not familiar territory for Curtis Gary, and I think as this race wears on, maybe that plays a factor. Maybe you got to put some of that stuff aside and not realize that, I got a shot to win one of the biggest super late model races in the country.
It's certainly a psychological game. If you're a guy like Curtis Gary that is not normally used to being in this position, it's going to weigh heavily on his mind. And he's one of the guys that actually told us this is like the Daytona 500 for them. And there is Glenn Luce, who has spun out off of turn number 4. He won the 250 2 years ago, and now back out in the racetrack, but we stay green. Look at Ben Rowe missing the front end on that machine. I didn't think he was going to be able to return after that big hit down in turn number 1.
But for him, he's the past national points leader, going for his 5th past national championship. That'll go down to the wire at Hickory now in the Mega Meltdown, which you'll see here on MAV TV. But he's also in the past North Championship, and as we said a little bit earlier, when he first got that damage, with 44 cars in this race, you could lose a ton of points tonight.
And the interesting thing here is Curtis Gary in the second, black number 7 in the shot there, is actually your leader, and he's just mired in some slower traffic right now. Reed Lanford, by the way, in the 59 is possibly going to go a lap down here pretty soon, and Lanford was running up front earlier in the show.
It's really interesting to see because it's almost like he's, I want to say protected by the lap cars, but I guess the better comparison would be in the middle of a Hornet's nest.
Well, you got to be careful there. And speaking of Hornet's nest, how about the Hornet on the side of the 94, Sean Martin, in the last 8 races here in the 250 as Mike Hopkins makes it 3 wide. Oh my, it was just getting too exciting right there. And then Justin Drake spins again to bring out the caution just when it was getting good around lap 172.
And that was a big move for Mike Hopkins because that got him back on the lead lap, just being able to get there in front of Curtis Gary.
We take a look at what happened down here, and there you see Justin Drake going around again. Here's another shot of it down there in the corner, and it looked like he too might have had a little help by Derek Ramstrom.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, but they were definitely close as they went down in that corner, and this is a huge opportunity, I would say, as we see a lot of pit boards out and the leaders dropping down on the apron here.
Yeah, I figured Curtis Gary needs to come down pit road right now, make his last stop, and then go after the victory. There's Derek Ramstrom in the number 35 coming down pit road, Alan Tardif in the 9 as well.
Who is going to stay out, though, Bob? That's the question. We saw Scott McDaniel shift his pit strategy a little bit away from the other leaders, so we know that he's going to stay out. How this will all shake out remains to be seen.
It's a race down pit road, and Curtis Gary is coming in for a new set of stickers. His tire guy told us that they saved the best set for last, but they're confident they'll have a fast car. Gary says the car is flawless and really, really good in the long run. Back to you guys.
Curtis Gary inside the cockpit of that race car. Got to be pretty nervous because he knows he has a really good race car, but at the same time, there's so much time still left in this race.
Well, and so much time left to think here. You know, he's getting a little bit of a break right here. The caution lap's not counting. As we mentioned, these guys are not professionals. These are just your regular, everyday mechanics, volunteers, guys that wanted to come out and be a part of the Oxford 250. And man, that's great to see.
And you got to remember, these super late models like Curtis Gary uses a wide 5. Okay, so
just not an easy tire.
No, not at all. It takes a little bit more time to get to all 5 of those lug nuts because they're not right there on the center of the hub. So Curtis Gary could take some time here because he's not losing any laps, and that's what this team is doing. Make sure they get it right because he has such a good race car.
And it saves cost to not have a professional pit crew come and pit the race.
Looks
like the gas can and the gas man got drugged there a little bit.
Well, he's up and going again, so good to see that nobody was injured down there. But Curtis Gary, definitely a scary moment down there on pit road. But these teams doing all that they can. They're local drivers, local pit crew members, and they're battling in one of the most prestigious races in America.
And there's the man. We spoke about it a little bit earlier. Scott McDaniel ran well, pitted earlier than the rest of the leaders, and now we're going to see a whole group of cars that pitted during that stint somewhere around lap 100 that are going to be in front of these cars that just took pit stops.
So look at this. Scott McDaniel leads the field here at Oxford as we get to the final 50. Less than 80 laps to go in the Oxford 250. Curtis Gary has pitted, early race dominator. Cassius Clark has pitted, and now Scott McDaniel in the 14 is being scored as your leader.
You see the car number 2 down on the inside. That's Lonnie Somerville. He's the first car 1 lap down. Right now battling to try and get his lap back. But look at the veteran, Jeff White, in that car number 50. Back in second right now, having a great run here in the late stages of the 44th annual Oxford 250.
Well, McDaniel had a little bit of trouble there, trying to ride that outside groove. Look at this, a battle for the lead between McDaniel and White.
Jeff White right now back in behind that lap machine of Lonnie Somerville. Scott McDaniel back up to the outside, trying to get around White and move past Lonnie Somerville. And right now, Somerville causing some headaches for the leaders.
Yeah, I'm sure McDaniel is not all too happy with Somerville in that too. And Somerville, a longtime competitor up in Canada and also in the Pass North Circuit. He's even come down to the Pass South Circuit at times.
Yeah, he ran really, really well in the Easter Bunny 150 a few years ago and really got a lot of notoriety as he tries to get back in and contention here. See a few sparks from that car number 2 as he tries to stay out in front of Scott McDaniel and Jeff White right here while they battle for the lead.
And honestly, Somerville has been taking up 2 lanes, sometimes a little bit up in the second groove, sometimes down on that white line, and that's why McDaniel and also White didn't know where to go there for a couple laps, but at least right now it looks like McDaniel finally has a little bit of an advantage, although here comes White once again.
Yeah, you wonder if Scott McDaniel can get a little bit of space to get down in front of Jeff White there. You see best finish here in the 250, a 13th back in 2012. But you wonder if Scott McDaniel could actually get down, if he could maybe get down on the inside of Lonnie Somerville. But right now, Jeff White occupying that space on the bottom, and Scott McDaniel having to try and figure out a way to do it on the outside.
And there is Brackett in the 60 right behind that pair. Brackett having a very good run. Tim Brackett just 55 years young.
Oh, that's all?
That's all. Multi-time Oxford Plains Speedway track champion, the Bracketts. All 3 of them, actually, because you have father, son, and daughter that run here pretty consistently.
Now it looks like Scott McDaniel able to get a little bit of breathing room there between he and Jeff White as they come out of turn number 4 now, back down the front straightaway. He's going to be able to pull up alongside Lonnie Somerville and try to put him a lap down now as they go down the back straightaway.
And you might be thinking, why is Somerville there right now? He's battling to get back on the lead lap, and that could be key in the later stages of this race. We go back a little bit further. Look at that 7 car right there. And as I say that, wow, Brian Krusek off the racetrack in turn number 4.
He was almost in Canada. That's how far off the racetrack he was.
The second time the 00 has had trouble during this race. We'll see if he can get it refired once again and rejoin the field. We stay green.
He was a little too far off the racetrack to get a caution. Scott McDaniel, the leader, finally able to clear Lonnie Somerville there. And now that he's been able to do that, he's opened up a pretty good lead here over Jeff White right now, about 10 car lengths, as these guys that we just saw pit, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, continue to try to work their way back up. You see Mike Rowe there in the 24 back behind Eddie McDonald, trying to hold Curtis Gary off now for 8th.
And this is deja vu all over again for Curtis Gary. This is exactly what he did to get to the front of the field earlier in the race. Use that outside groove, and look at how good that car rolls in the center of the corner, cuts, and then he's able to stand on the gas once again.
And that's something that I've noticed in races that I've watched at Oxford. We talked about it earlier. If you can get that car hooked up on the outside, first off, it doesn't seem like you got nearly as much competition vying for that groove as you do down on the bottom, and it's working for Curtis Gary. We've seen that at Hickory in years past. Maybe a little fresher asphalt.
Oh, look at this. Look at this. 3 wide going into turn number 3. Curtis Gary is on the move.
And I think, Bob, that just shows you how important this Oxford 250 is. Threading the needle, going up there, taking a chance to try and get up to the front and get some separation from those guys on the same tire strategy as he is.
I got my eye on Curtis Gary. Tim Brackett in the 60, DJ Shaw in the 60, a battle of 60s on the racetrack. Tim Brackett, a 4-time champion of this racetrack, and the defending Pass North champion is DJ Shaw.
But remember, these are guys, Tim Brackett in that blue car number 60, on a different tire strategy. These are older tires, and right now it's not playing out for these guys. The guys that pitted later, it's working for them, it's falling into place for them. They're able to make their way back up to the front of the field right now.
And honestly, I've been looking for Cassius Clark to come through the field as well. Pitted at the same time as Curtis Gary, but I just caught a glimpse of him. He's mired in traffic right now, has not been able to break free, but this guy has certainly broken free. Battling for second, Curtis Gary, after that stop, man, he's been on a mission.
But just think if Curtis Gary didn't have that opportunity to make that move up in between some of those cars a few laps ago. He could have been mired back in that traffic. Those are the things that you got to do. You have to make these split-second decisions, especially when you get in the late stages of a race as big as this on a track as short as Oxford.
Listen, it was a bold move. A bold move. He split two other cars, threaded the needle, and got by some traffic. And because of that, he's been able to work his way up through the field. Now he's trying to chase down the number 14 of McDaniel.
Very impressed with Scott McDaniel. Having a great run here today. DJ Shaw now working his way up to the outside of Jeff White to take third. And it is just so hard to believe that either Dale Shaw, his father, or DJ have never been able to win this race.
Yeah, last year was his best finish in the 250 when he finished on the podium in third. So DJ Shaw used to be a young gun, now one of the veterans here of the super late model campaigns in the New England area, and especially with Pass North, having a good run. Still, a guy like DJ Shaw could be a threat for the victory. Even though Gary got by him, he's one of those, we got problems in turns 1 and 2. Ben Lynch involved, as well as the 4 of Ben Rowe.
What a night for Ben Rowe. Whoa, and there's Cassius Clark.
Cassius Clark, the early race dominator. Doesn't look like much damage to that race car. And the 7s are wild in this one, as well as Travis Benjamin in that red car, the 2-time Oxford 250 winner, caught up in this melee.
Some pretty big contenders involved here with about 50 laps to go here in the Oxford 250. It doesn't look like a lot of damage on Travis Benjamin's car, and we noticed the same on Cassius Clark, but nonetheless caught up in this accident here.
Travis Benjamin, the 2012 Pass North champion, battling for another championship this year. Him and Glenn Luce, a lot of championship equations being played into this race here. Just 3 points separated that pair coming into this race. Let's take a look at what happened down there in the corner, if we can get a good look at it right here. So many side-by-side racing right there. Ben Rowe, don't know if he got help or not, but he went around, and that just bottled everybody back up.
And it looks like Travis Benjamin, he might have got into the back of Cassius Clark. Then you see Joey Polwarczyk. He and Travis Benjamin, a little bit of contact, and just nowhere to go for a lot of these guys. Pretty hard contact there for Ben Lynch with Ben Rowe's car, number 4.
You know, Cassius Clark is very lucky there because he was right in the middle of it and certainly could have gotten a lot of damage, but I don't really see a mark on that Fury race car down there on pit road.
But those are those last 2 tires. Those are the complete his 10 tires. He's had the 4 he started on, before he changed on the last caution, and now these 2. I don't think he would have took these tires. He didn't really have an option, though.
Just over 50 laps remain in this one. We'll have the nitty-gritty when we return. The 44th annual Oxford 250 here in Maine. Man, it's been an exciting race so far, and I think it's going to get even better here shortly. McDaniel in the 14-year leader. Here comes Curtis Gary in the 7. We are green flag racing once again.
These drivers have to be really careful on these restarts. They do not control the restart. That goes to the flagman. Curtis Gary able to get the advantage up there on the outside. Not really a surprise, Bob, with those fresher tires than Scott McDaniel, and as well as he's been up on that outside group.
That car has been on a rail. Less than 50 laps to go now in this race. And here comes Eddie McDonald. He's like the stealth bomber. Right at the end of the race, he always makes his presence felt.
Eddie McDonald, so good in the NASCAR Canadian Pro Series, ACT late models. Had a big pass win up at New Hampshire Motor Speedway last year. When it gets down to time, whenever it gets to when you're racing for that check, you can always guarantee Eddie McDonald's going to be there.
McDonald, a 7-time winner in the NASCAR Can-Am Pro Series East, and here we go. Battle for second on the racetrack. DJ Shaw on the inside, easily going to take that spot over the 14 of McDaniel.
I like where DJ Shaw is right now. You know, you got to obviously think that Curtis Gary is the favorite here with about 50 laps to go, but DJ Shaw has been right there with him. He's worked his way up through the field, right back in behind him, and I think he's got a shot at it here. I mean, you got some really, really good guys who have been able to play this strategy all on the same tire strategy now up in the top 3.
I think you're right, but I still like Eddie McDonald there too. He looks like he has a very strong race car. And don't count out a guy like the 24 of Mike Rowe, going for his 4th victory in this race and really starting to make his presence felt. Now cracking into the top 5 is the 24, although Tim Brackett is not giving up in the 60 on the outside.
Unbelievable. Mike Rowe started 42nd in that car number 24. Right now he rides back in 7th behind this battle between the 60 of Tim Brackett and the 50 car Jeff White.
I knew Mike was going to go to the inside there. I don't think his car is really good up at the top side of the racetrack. A little contact there with Jeff White in the 50, but kind of it was okay. He just rubbed him a little bit, took him up a little bit high in turns 1 and 2, and now Mike Rowe will get that spot.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Bob. We really haven't seen Mike Rowe venture off of that bottom groove so far, and it seems to be working for him. Maybe that's the only place that is working for him those seasons. Go where what works best for him.
Absolutely. This guy, though, made the outside groove really work for him coming through the field. And now the battle for second starting to brew. Here comes Eddie McDonald battling with DJ Shaw. DJ Shaw, one of those guys that has worked that inside groove as well. A little damage to the right front fender of the 17 of Eddie McDonald. Remember, he went up on 2 wheels earlier in the day, went off the racetrack in turn number 4, yet he's battling in the top 3. Oh no, almost a mistake there by Eddie McDonald. Looked like he might have caught the apron a little bit.
And that's something that we've not seen too much today, Bob, is any of these guys get so low on that apron coming out of turn 2 that it kicks the car sideways. I know you've driven cars before, and sometimes if the car's not handling properly, you can actually use that apron to help it turn, but I don't think that's his intention, at least what we saw there in turn 2 that time.
No, I think he was trying to line himself up. Like you said, 3-wide battle on the racetrack. Jeff White is in trouble. Look at that. There you see Trevor Sanborn as well in that number 44. Back in the past North Series, Hannah Newhouse has more.
Trevor Sanborn reunited with Moody Racing specifically for this race. His spotters on the radio telling him to keep his nose clean, be patient, as he just broke into the top 10.
And he's in the middle of everything right now. That battle right there, nobody wants to be in it. Jeff White starting to struggle after a good run for him. Remember, recently he started second, as high as second in this race.
Older tires on that car number 50, and it's really starting to show right now. Hannah mentioned Trevor Sanborn back with that Moody Racing team. He swept a couple of past South races about 10 years ago at Orange County Speedway, and he's always seemed to do well. Not a frequent runner with Richard Moody Racing, but whenever he does get teamed up with him, they seem to run well.
He hasn't run with Richard Moody since I think 2010. Actually won a race in the past North Circuit with Moody back in that day, and then they just went their separate ways. And I cannot believe, honestly, that now Trevor Sanborn is 30 years old. He's making me feel old because he was one of the up-and-comers back in the day.
He and a lot of guys are making me feel old right now as we see a couple of veterans going at it. Here goes DJ Shaw and Eddie McDonald. And Eddie McDonald venturing up to that outside. He was pretty content working the low side there back in behind DJ Shaw. He knows DJ's not going to come up off that outside. Maybe a spotter said, hey, look how well that 7-car Curtis Gary's doing on the outside. Try it out, and it's working right now for Eddie McDonald.
27 years old is DJ Shaw. 37, 10 years his elder is Eddie McDonald. Locked in a heated battle for second in the waning stages of the 44th Oxford 250. And this is a fantastic battle side by side around this racetrack for several laps.
It does not get any better than that. You can just see the intensity ramping up here in the late stages of this race. Driving a little bit harder into these corners, kicking it a little bit sideways whenever they power up. You see some sparks a lot of times from some of these cars. That's those guys driving in hard and getting on the brakes as we got a problem here in turn 4.
Jeremy Davis in the 09, the winner of the Last Chance race, and Cody Connor from the Carolinas came all the way up here to the 250, and some major damage to the Tiger Stripe number 45.
And we saw a couple of the leaders have to take evasive action there. Eddie McDonald actually got off track as he went up to the outside of Jeremy Davis's car, and look at that damage on Cody Connor's car number 45.
That car is toast. You see the right front tire not moving, just kind of caught up in the suspension there. Now it's actually moving. on the racetrack, but you saw the sparks just flying, all sorts of broken front suspension on the 45.
His granddad, Jerry Connor, passed away just recently in the Oxford 250. They came up here last year with Grandpa Jerry, and it was really important for them to get back this year, and I'm glad, even though their luck didn't go their way tonight, that they were able to make it back up.
Look at this. Tim Brackett is going to come down pit road in the 60. Interesting move for the veteran. And there is Rose in the 8, last year's street stock champion here at this racetrack. And right now he's come to the attention of one of the officials on the backstretch and needs a push start.
Yep, looks like that car stalled out. And we saw Tim Brackett making that pit stop. Now, here with 31 laps to go, these drivers, they really don't have any other choice but to take those other 2 tires. These guys pitted about 50 or 60 laps before the leaders did. Those tires are really worn, and I think this is their only opportunity to maybe get up and challenge them, is to come in and change tires.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. And by the way, you can see his son standing by the car, TJ Brackett, who was in this race as well. Mike Hopkins, that team underneath the hood of the 15, and you can sometimes actually lift that hood and make a chassis adjustment on the front suspension, and I think that's what they were doing.
And that's something we don't see in the bigger leagues. They don't have to get under the hood to make those chassis adjustments. A lot of times you'll see that in super late model racing.
31 laps to go. Curtis Gary leads DJ Shaw and Eddie McDonald. So much to do in Maine. Now, why don't you go to the Maine Wildlife Park? And I know, Alan, you've been up to Maine, you've been in the woods, you haven't seen any wildlife, so we figured we'd show you some shots of the moose, cougars, bobcats, and more.
Who said I didn't see any wildlife? Were you not in the camping area last night?
Oh my gosh. I'll tell you what, the big bonfire that they have out there in the parking lot, this place is a bucket list in terms of a race, but it's also a bucket list in terms of parties as well. Welcome back to the 44th Annual Oxford 250. I'm Bob Dillner, Alan Dietz with me, Hannah Newhouse on pit road, and now Curtis Gary and Eddie McDonald side by side for this restart.
Curtis Gary looking for his first win in the 250. Eddie McDonald looking to join some elite company, going for his third.
I thought Eddie McDonald was going to be able to challenge him up along the outside, but Gary just too strong, and immediately he moves about a half groove off that white line. That center part of the racetrack is where that 7 car really handles well.
Well, we've talked about how good Curtis Gary is up on the outside as we see Reed Lanford working the outside, as you mentioned earlier, that almost D-bank part of the front straightaway where you can kind of offset the car whenever you come out of the corner. But I think ultimately what's going on with Curtis Gary's car is it's just handling anywhere he puts it.
You look at Reed Lanford and sometimes you're like, where the heck is the driver of that number 59 going? That's how far up the racetrack that 19-year-old is putting that machine. His crew chief, Jason Ricker, I remember he was my crew chief back in the day when we attempted with my team to run the Oxford 250. And he told me you can run the second and third groove at Oxford, and he has taught Reed Lanford very well.
No doubt about it, as Reed Lanford continues to work up to the outside of DJ Shaw, and you see that green car number 24, Mike Rowe, peeking into the picture. Hey, all of a sudden Cassius Clark's back in this thing too right now. He's just outside of that battle between Lanford and DJ Shaw.
And remember, Cassius Clark has the freshest tires of any car on the racetrack. He is the white number 13, right behind Mike Rowe. So will that fresh rubber really prevail late in this race? The big question right now.
Well, the laps are definitely clicking off right now, and he's got to work around these cars battling for third. Shaw able to get a little bit of an advantage right now over Reed Lanford, but Lanford continues to work at that outside lane. And Bob, you mentioned it. I'll tell you, when you come out of turn 4 there, it almost looks like he's going into the grandstand.
Yes, it does indeed, but he knows this track very well. Won here earlier this year, and a little love tap there by Cassius Clark saying, Mike Rowe, you better pick a lane, buddy.
Man, it's crazy to think, Cassius Clark, how long he's been doing this now as well. We talk about what a young guy he is as we got some contact here, Bob.
Contact between Mike Rowe and the 60 of DJ Shaw. Shaw goes around in turn number 4. A couple other people stack up there in turn 4. But DJ Shaw, well, his chances at winning the Oxford 250 might have just vanished right there.
You know, it looked like DJ Shaw was pretty far out in front of Mike Rowe and Cassius Clark in that battle there. Y'all had 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th there together. And I'm not sure if DJ might have had a problem or what happened.
Let's take a look down here. DJ Shaw in the number 60. He was battling with Mike Rowe and some contact right there. That looked like some good hard racing, and maybe Shaw came down a little bit. Mike Rowe stuck his nose in there. Listen, you're at the end of the Oxford 250. That's what it comes down to. And this is with 13 laps to go.
And I think you see Mike Rowe really drove it down hard into turn 3 there. And I just don't think DJ Shaw expected him to be there.
Yeah, that was a great view there. And I don't even think the spotter had time to radio into DJ Shaw to say, hey, car on the inside.
Now DJ Shaw going to come in and take new rubber, but here with 13 laps to go, you know, this is just to salvage positions on the track. I mean, you never want to give up, but you would think it'd be almost impossible to get back up there with this little amount of time left.
Well, he comes into this race 4th in past North Point, so he's trying to gain some spots here. Remember, Ben Rowe, who was 3rd in past North Points coming into this one, has had trouble in this race.
Point contenders definitely having their struggles today. Now, one thing that is harped on in drivers' meetings by Tom Mayberry, you cannot steal a win. And as we've said, some short tracks, the leaders start the race. They never do in pass. It's always the flagman as we go green here.
Curtis Gary gets a good jump in the 7 car. The 17 of Eddie McDonald now under fire by Reed Lampher on the inside. Lampher very strong up the inside of this racetrack. The 19-year-old trying to pick off the 2nd spot. Contact off of turn 4.
And that's the last thing Eddie McDonald needed. He needed to get a better restart, try to stay up on the outside of Curtis Gary and pin him down. Instead, now he's going to lose the 2nd position to Reed Lampher.
So now, let's see what Lampher can do. Can he catch Curtis Gary in the final laps of this race? By the way, I have to give a kudos to the Mayberry family. Tom Mayberry, his son Mike, helps run this racetrack. Mary Mayberry, very involved, Tom's wife, and they do such a fine job with this event, the past series, and this racetrack. They have really raised the level of this facility and this particular race.
No doubt about it, just 10 laps to go, Bob. And look at this battle here for 10th. And there's some guys there, Johnny Clark, Glenn Luce. We might have left for dead at one point. Now all of a sudden they're battling to try and get back into the top 10.
Well, Glenn Luce in that 7 car, 2 years ago he won the race. Last year he finished 10th. Wants to do just a little bit better. Of course, this year has had all sorts of trouble. This number 7, though, no trouble whatsoever. Curtis Gary is the man. And that's all you have to say, the man during this race. Now we see Cassius Clark, who dominated, led over 120 laps earlier in this race in the number 13, now battled with Eddie McDonald for 3rd.
And you know, I think Andrew Hicken and that team played the strategy right. They're on the same strategy basically as Curtis Gary. A little bit of contact there with Eddie McDonald as we get in these late laps. But I think the setup went away when it got dark. You know, we spoke a little bit earlier from that transition to day to night. It definitely seemed like that 13 car was better during the day.
Cassius Clark is getting a little bit impatient, but he doesn't want to go to the outside groove. But now being threatened by Mike Rowe, he has to do that. And that could cost Cassius Clark. He waited behind Eddie McDonald for a couple of laps, so if we don't have a caution, honestly, Cassius Clark, I don't think has a shot at this race with 5 laps to go.
Well, he might not have wanted to go to the outside groove because he ran into Eddie McDonald a couple of times, but he went up there and he's able to make it work as he'll take 3rd into turn 1, I think.
Indeed he does. Cassius Clark up to the 3rd spot. Has a podium finish a couple years ago in this race. Eddie McDonald not giving up at all in the red 17, and there's Mike Rowe, the ageless one. 67 years old and battling in the top 5 once again in the Oxford 250.
Now, you know, since we've seen Cassius Clark, because, whoa, a lot of contact that time with Eddie McDonald, but since we've seen Cassius Clark hook up with this King Racing team, not seen him really race as much in the States, really raced a lot in the Maritimes up in Canada, and he's had a lot of success up there.
Yeah, he's won a couple of big races up there in Canada. So Cassius Clark, and there is Curtis Gary. 1 lap to go. Nobody would have predicted this. Off of turn number 4, the dream comes true for Curtis Gary. He is now a winner of the Oxford 250. That is something that at the beginning of the day, nobody, I think, would have put their money on Curtis Gary other than that team for him to win this race.
You know, I don't think you would have called him a long shot, but he definitely would have had middle of the road odds. And I think if for no other reason, then he raced at Beech Ridge last night in his car. This is a tremendous accomplishment to win this race, but to win it the way that he has really speaks a lot for him and his team.
Honestly, I'm sure he's got a big old smile underneath that helmet. And how ironic is it that Curtis Gary and Reed Lanfer, who are battling for the track championship at Beech Ridge Motor Speedway, finished 1 and 2 in this race. We will talk to this year's winner when we return to MAP TV. The 44th running of the Oxford 250 now complete. All the teams taking their equipment out of the infield. But there is one guy who will be celebrating here tonight, and that's the band who will be climbing out in victory lane, Curtis Gary.
Curtis Gary, what a huge win. This team totally earned it, and it came out with just the biggest win of his career, no doubt.
Here he comes, the Cinderella story of the 2017 Oxford 250.
Curtis Gary, a first win in the Oxford 250, won it in dominating style. His crew was ecstatic, and they'll be meeting him down here shortly. Curtis, you dominated that race, and that's something very few can say here at the Oxford 250. At what point did you know that you were going to be the one to beat tonight?
Well, the first half of the run we had, I mean, the car was phenomenal. I knew if the second set of tires was anything close to that one, we were going to be in the front no matter what. I can't even believe it.
Now you've had 5 starts here with a best finish to 10th, but you just won the Oxford 250. Has that sunk in yet?
No. I can't even believe it. This is the race that every kid dreams about. I was in the stands at 8 years old watching my dad race, watching this whole entire race all those years. I just can't even believe it. Just thank God and give him all the glory.
There you guys have it, Curtis Gary, the Oxford 250 winner. A very excited crew member here.
Nice. You just won the Oxford 250. What you going to do? He's going to go to Disney World, right? Curtis Gary, the winner here. Reed Lanfer, for the second time in his career, finishes second in this race.
And that was Curtis's spotter, Jason Thompson, and you could tell just from the emotion. And really, Curtis Gary, I think he's shocked.
25 cars on the lead lap finish here. Sean Martin, by the way, a good top 20 run for him. In the last 9 Oxford 250s, he's only missed 3 official laps.
2,250 laps. That's just an amazing stat.
How long did it take you to do the math on that one?
Oh, I figured it right up.
Reed Lanfer, second place run again. Let's go back down to Hannah.
You told me earlier that you were good at Beech Ridge, which means you would be good here. A second place and a strong second place run. How close is it, or how does it feel to be so close to that Oxford 250 win?
It feels amazing to have gotten second, but it's this is our second place for the 250, so I wanted it just that much more. But I couldn't be happier to have still gone second. Nothing to take for granted at all. I couldn't be more happy for Curtis. There's nobody that deserves it more than him. He's been awesome all year. Super happy for those guys, and yeah, I'm just pumped. I can't believe we had a lot of things not go our way during this race, and we're able to have a few things come our way and be able to make it back up through, so it was good.
There you guys have it. Reed Lanfer, runner-up here at the Oxford 250.
Thank you so much, Hannah Newhouse. Good job down there today at Oxford. Reed Lanfer happy. Ben Rowe not as happy. Almost a 50-point lead in the past national point standings coming in, but Dave Farrington finished a bunch of spots in front of him, 18th as compared to Ben Rowe's 30th.
And the lucky thing for Ben is a lot of the guys that are challenging him also had problems today.
A change atop of the past North standings. Glenn Luce now the point leader. His 13th place finish to Travis Benjamin's finish puts him there.
Cassius Clark was looking for that first Oxford 250 win. You led most of the race, came up a little bit short here. How does it feel to be so close yet so far for that win?
Yeah, it hurts. We had a really good car, and pit strategy, we pitted, and I felt like we pitted at the right time. The 7 was a little faster the first half, and we pitted, made some adjustments, and felt like we were coming back up through. We were 3 wide, a bunch of us, a half dozen of us. We got by him and got by, Travis, and they got back by, and just kind of shuffling back and forth, track position between the lap cars, and just got in a mess. Just, a slower lap car there kind of jumbled up, and we get spun out, and, had to pit again with like 40 or 50 to go, and just not quite enough time to get back. I think we were coming, and just ran out of laps.
Cassius Clark comes home third here at the Oxford 250.
Still looking for that first win in the Oxford 250 is Cassius Clark. Great crowd on hand here today, and now a little bit of a traffic jam getting out of Oxford Plains Speedway. But remember, the next past race on MAV TV will be in November, the Mason-Dixon Mega Meltdown at Hickory Motor Speedway. And Alan, these fans here today that came into this racetrack really enjoyed the lobster rolls that they sell here, had so much emotion. Fans of all ages saw some great racing.
And I think the thing that you see with the Oxford 250 is everybody's going to have their challenges throughout the day, but who can capitalize and who can maybe minimize those challenges? Curtis Gary did.
Look at that shot right there. Talk about threading the needle. We saw bent up sheet metal all over this racetrack in 250 grueling laps, but how about the performance of Curtis Gary?
It was unbelievable. I don't even think he could believe it. And this gas man definitely didn't believe it.
No, some anxious moments down there on pit road for that team. Plenty of accidents there, bumping and banging near the end of the race. So for Hannah Newhouse and Alan Dietz, I'm Bob Dillner, and we thank you for joining us today from Oxford Plains Speedway, and congratulations to Curtis Gary.